Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Just thought to do a quick Sunday wrap of some of the news stories going on in Sunday papers at the moment, and of course always looking at report because that's probably our best source of Sunday news anyway. Lots of internationals, but we'll be wrapping up the internationals on Monday morning. I've just finished filming with Nick Mallet as well, so that's up already. So you can go have a look at that elsewhere on the channel. But just interesting one, the big headline from report is that Jan-Hendrik Wessels, his legal team, his agent, the Bulls, etc., want to take the case further. Now, if you've been living under a rock and you haven't been watching my channel or you haven't been following what's going on, he received an 8-week ban, was initially 9 weeks. 8 weeks for an allegation that he grabbed Josh Murphy of Connacht during the Bulls Connacht game between the legs and twisted his testicles, according to Josh Murphy. Even though that the timeline didn't support that, the length of it didn't support that. It was quite a travesty of justice because Jan-Hendrik Wessels denied it. He was convicted on the balance of probabilities, which is a much lower standard than obviously evidence, and there was no video evidence of the incident. He denied it. The citing commissioner believed Josh Murphy, went and spoke to him afterwards, and one Irishman to another, and then filed his report, and then it was left up to Jan-Hendrik Wessels to prove him wrong. The Bulls felt that there was a lot of discrepancies in the case. They weren't allowed to cross and examine any of the witnesses, and despite it all, he was given this ban, and despite everything that was wrong with the case, he has to now face this. He's going to lose 1.5 million according to report in terms of earnings from the tour and from the Bulls games that he's going to miss as well. And plus, he's now been branded a dirty player, somebody who in technical terms probably meant sexually molested somebody or sexually assaulted somebody, which is a hell of a allegation to take, and a hell of an allegation to take without evidence. So yeah, a lot of going there, but let's have a look at the report story and we can talk a bit further about that. Basically not going to give you all the details, but just a summing up of it. If you can support report, please do. I have done work for report in the past. They're a great bunch of guys that work there, and please support the newspaper Netfact 24. They do some great work at report, and are probably the only publication in South Africa that still breaks stories, so give them that. But that's the headline there. The Bulls want to go to court around it. Of course, Jan-Hendrik Wessels doesn't have too many options at the moment. He can go to the court for arbitration of sport, or he can go to a court with a civil case, and if he wins that, could probably sue for loss of earnings as well. It's an interesting one either way, but quite interestingly, I know the Bulls got an Irish SC to do the appeal, and they weren't very happy with the appeal because they asked for a de novo result first of all, which is basically a do-over, basically to have a totally new hearing on the original charge. And they got somebody there called Frank Murphy, is the ex Chief Justice of Ireland, to represent them there. So they got quite a heavyweight, but that was all ignored. So there's a lot of unhappiness about this, and the Bulls feel that it certainly could be handled better. Apologies, I said Frank Clark, not Frank Murphy. So of course Josh Murphy, Frank Clark. You can see it's been a late night watching Ireland, New Zealand late last night. Didn't have much sleep, so apologies there. Frank Clark is you've seen the picture, is the ex-Chief Justice in Ireland, somebody who's rather a legal heavyweight, and certainly they wouldn't be sort of suggesting this if it wasn't really they felt something strongly about. Of course, he wants to reclaim his reputation, and there's still a sense of injustice felt about that. So it'll be interesting to see where this one goes. It's going to be a tough one for Jan-Hendrik Wessels, because any civil case or even a CAS is going to take months, maybe years. But certainly if it's your reputation on the line, you may feel it's worthwhile. The next story comes from France, where Fabien Galthié, who we know, the French team, there's two stories here. Two stories out of the same story, shall I say. Report did an interview, Antoine Marlin did an interview with Paul Willems, so the ex-French lock that used to play at the Bulls, before he switched allegiances to France, and spoke about the revenge match this week. Fabien Galthié, Willems has said, before their games against the Boks, made them watch Chasing the Sun to know the type of of players they're dealing with to try and capture that emotion. It was quite an interesting one. Fabian Galtier is a great coach, and obviously any sort of advantage and anything you can do to get some leverage on the opposition you use. And South Africans are extremely emotional. I mean, Chasing the Sun showed just how much that World Cup meant to us. And I think the French, being as passionate as they are, any sort of advantage as well is a big thing for them. Either way, this is the story that comes out there. Of course, Paul Willems is now no longer playing. He's announced his retirement. But I just want to turn to a piece in there that maybe, especially this week, as we're going into the French game in Paris, and just to understand a bit about the French psyche. I mean, we all know it's going to be a revenge game. We all know the death threats that some South African players got after the 1-point victory in the quarterfinal in 2023. But yeah, it's just interesting to hear Paul Willems say it. Again, please go support these guys at Report. I don't like using their articles, but it's good. It's good to show you what's going on there. And if you do understand Afrikaans and you can support them, please do. But yeah, Willems says over here in the article that it's definitely a revenge game. I'll translate it for those who don't understand Afrikaans as well. He says people there haven't forgotten yet. They don't really care much more about other things. They just want this win, the troostwen, the sympathy win. What's troostwen? Maybe I can't get it right. I can't think of the name right now. We're South Africa. So they just want this win, this revenge win over South Africa. He puts it quite bluntly there. So yeah, that's going to make a huge game on Saturday. I think we'll be building up quite well, and we'll have Nick back in to talk. He's a great person to talk about the French game. Of course, having coached in France, he knows the psyche very well, and he's great friends with Fabien Galtier as well. So he'll definitely have a couple of insights later this week. But turning to another sort of interesting story that happened the past week, I haven't really covered on this channel yet, and that's the Sharks announcing that John Plumtree is going to step down at the end of the season. The story, of course, quotes my good mate Hendrik quotes Marco Mazzotti, the owner of the Sharks, who talks a lot about the way the way things have handled, and there certainly seems to be systematic problems at the Sharks. There's a lot of issues that they have, and my colleague Gavin Rich wrote a story a while back about just some of the problems that they face, and it's really a tough gig for a URC coach nowadays with all these stops in the season and the box not being available half the time. Teams that have lots of box tend to struggle, and I think the Bulls are going to probably get to that point now that their contingent has increased quite a bit. So Marco Mazzotti talking about he wants a rebel, but somebody that's going to do it the Sharks way. So it's going to be interesting to see who they got. They're obviously looking for a new coach from the end of the season. John Plumtree is going to stay on as director of rugby, and there's a new role for Neil Powell, who was the director of rugby, and Michael Horak, who's the recruitment guy. There's obviously some sort of gaps in that system that need to be fixed. Crux of the matter, of course, being here that Mazzotti says there's a systematic problem. He says they spent a lot of time in the off-season trying to fix it, but it carried on in the first couple of games. He says so they're obviously looking towards the future, though the Sharks are very ambitious, and Mazzotti's quite open about that, the high expectations that they have as well with the group of players they have. So they're certainly looking for somebody that's going to take them to that level. They want to be talked about in the same breath as the Toulouses and Leinsters of this world, and at the moment there's something missing, and their box don't tend to play for them a lot, and then the reserve group, there seems to be some parts missing there as well. Straight into the next story, and this is something we covered last week as well, where the franchises were offered 250,000 Rand per Springbok to play in games outside the international window. Unfortunately, that 250,000 has been rejected. They want 500,000. I don't think this is a big storm in a teacup. It's something that needs to get sorted out once and for all. The franchises do contract the players. They do carry the most risk, and they probably use them the least. Springboks get the benefit. Of course, the country should always get the benefit of their main players, but there has to be a fair example of a fair sort of redistribution of the funds, because the Springboks bring in a lot of cash for SA Rugby, and the franchises feel that they should get something back as well. I think they'll sort this out, probably meet each other in the middle. I don't think it's the end of the world, but this is obviously part of the negotiating process. So we'll keep on watching this one as well. We've got an interesting story I picked up in one of the UK papers, the Rugby paper, which comes out on a Sunday in the UK. A very interesting story, and something that will interest URC fans as well, because Pat Lam was talking about how they're getting so many injuries there, and we know how many South African franchises have had injuries just coming into the season, and part of that is, of course, the global season that never really takes shape. South Africans keep on playing non-stop rugby since COVID for the last 5 years, without breaks, without proper off-seasons, and that starts to catch up with you. But it's interesting to see that's happening in England as well. And part of the blame has been given by Pat Lam, who of course coached the Barbarians with John Dobson yesterday against All Blacks 15, for the artificial pitches. And something that's been sort of mooted a long time by a lot of coaches. Jake White was one of them. And talking about how those artificial pitches sort of tend to bring more injuries. And it's quite interesting it's being mentioned in the UK now. It's just something we're going to have to keep watching and keep an eye on. But certainly something that was certainly worth mentioning in this sort of this sort of video. Just to back that up, Pat Lam says here, just the numbers are the interesting thing about this that I wanted to highlight. More than 100 players were unavailable in last weekend's round of the Premiership matches, about 25% of the total players. And when England announced their training squad, 15 players were not considered due to injury. That's a massive amount, and somewhere, something needs to be done. Whether it's all artificial pitches, I don't know, but certainly there is something needs to be done. I just think there's too much rugby, to be very honest. There's so many competitions, the seasons never end, test match rugby, and they keep on putting more and more things in. So at some point, something's got to give, and unfortunately, the body is normally the first to give. And players make their livelihoods; they're not going to say no. But at some point, we're going to really look at this as a rugby community. Whether they will, well, they haven't got the global season together for the last 20 years after promising, but certainly rugby's calendar needs a reset. Finally, just a story out the New Zealand Herald this morning. Injuries mount. Scott and Geordie Barrett both went off in the game against Ireland as well. They both are doubtful for the next test against Scotland for the All Blacks. And the Barretts are very important for the All Blacks. But certainly it comes in with the injuries. There are certainly a lot of injuries. The Boks have now got Oxen Chair out as well. That's a big problem for them as well. But just thought I'd end that on this one. We'll be wrapping up all the autumn internationals, the first week of it, tomorrow morning on the Monday morning. So have a look out for that. But very, very interesting indeed. So that's it for the Sunday. Go and enjoy your Sunday. Weekends don't last forever. And as soon as we hear that carte blanche music, we all know it's coming to an end. So, yeah, that's the news on the Sunday. But if you haven't already, please smash the subscribe button. There's going to be a lot more videos here. We're going to try and do a lot more as we carry on and try and build this channel into a great rugby news channel as well. But thanks for watching. And if you have any comments, questions, anything like that, leave in the comments below, and I'll definitely have a look at them. But yeah, that's Sunday. Enjoy what's left of the weekend. We'll chat soon. Cheers.